Profit with Law is celebrating 500 episodes? What?
Congratulations.
Huge congratulations.
Congratulations.
Happy 500 episode.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
500 podcast episodes. That's crazy.
Congratulations.
Congrats on the 500th episode.
500 episodes. Amazing.
Well, hello and welcome to the Profit with Law podcast. This episode is going to be different than what you've come to expect here on the show because it is episode 500. That is a big number, and I cannot believe that we're at this milestone. It's kind of like, you know, when you watch your baby grow and go from newborn to 3 months, and then they start smiling at you, and then they go to 6 months, and they start crawling and interacting with you in different ways, and all of a sudden they're 1 year old and they're walking, and then they're 2 and they're a toddler and they're throwing themselves on the floor and screaming, but they're also the cutest things in the world, and so on and so forth. The podcast has evolved in many ways over the course of time. We started the show in March of 2019. That is when we released our first episode, and what you may not know is that the podcast, I actually started a podcast before that called Dream Builder Financial. It actually is out there in the podcast universe if you want to check it out and get a chuckle at my first attempt at launching and running a podcast. And I had purchased some podcast, how to podcast courses and got some coaching. And the one thing that I was told over and over and over again is you have to show up consistently. You have to be consistent. Pick a cadence, pick a time frame, and then stick with it. If it's once a month, then it's once a month. If it's once a week, it's once a week. Your audience comes to get used to your show being there. And if it's not there, you're going to alienate them. You're going to let them down, and it's not going to grow. It's not going to work. So when I started the Profit with Law podcast, I made one commitment to myself. And that commitment was, we're going to keep this going consistently. We started as a 2-time-a-week show. I was doing an interview every week, and I was doing a solo episode every week. That became a little bit cumbersome for me to keep up with. Ultimately, we ended up going down to one show a week, and it's primarily interviews with guests that we're doing. That is the style of the show. I've had lots of ideas of changing it over time and making it different. But at the end of the day, what was most important to me was that we show up in your feed every Thursday morning. That became the holy grail for us. And all these other ideas, if they were going to potentially make it that we created inconsistency in your lives, we nixed the idea or decided not to move forward. And we have done that and more. We've had bonus episodes. We've had other stuff along the way. We've repurposed some content from our Law Firm Growth Summit. We've tried to constantly bring value. Sometimes we've highlighted episodes that were deep in the vault, deep in the recesses. You probably would never find it because it was so long ago, but yet the content was so valuable that we've brought it back up to the surface. We could not have done this without our guests. We could not have done it without the amazing people that we bring on the show week in, week out. And they all have really valuable things to share. And we never have enough time to cover everything that they have to give. And my job as a host is to try to extract as much of that content out as possible for you. And I try to do that for you every single episode. And I hope that I'm being successful in doing that. But today is like a birthday. Today is a celebration. Today is a milestone that we've achieved. It's kind of like your kid has graduated college, right? Like you've come to a place where you can look back and you can say, look what we've created. And this has not been just me behind the microphone. There is an entire team of people on my staff that are engaged with your podcast content every single week. We have Tina, who has been with us since 2017 and has been editing the podcast episodes since episode 1. She has edited and prepared 500 episodes for you to listen to and be able to hear with clarity and be able to see on YouTube. Tina is a rock star, and Tina, thank you. You're amazing, and I couldn't have done this without you. Daniel, who happens to be Tina's husband, has been coordinating guests for the podcast over the course of the last year. That has become his role. It's passed, through multiple people in the organization. But right now, Daniel is the one who coordinates and facilitates the guests, make sure that we are connected with them on social. They know what to expect. They have all the information that they need. Daniel, thank you for all of your efforts and what you do to make this podcast happen. Ben on our team is our newest video editor. So Tina does a lot of video editing. Ben comes in and he takes our videos and chops them up into pieces, selects reels for you to watch, shorts and stuff like that. Does a great job. And Ben, we couldn't have been producing all of those many pieces of content without the work that you're doing. And the people who are watching this and also watch that, they now know who's behind the scenes doing that for them. So Ben, that is awesome. Thank you for what you do. Goldie on our team is our newest copywriter. So she's in charge of making sure that your show notes are presented in a way that you can read them and you can find the links that you need. And also the email that goes out telling you about the episode that was released in that weekly newsletter, and all the emails you got, if you're a subscriber to our email list, all the emails you got letting you know that this 500th episode was coming out. So Goldie, fairly new to that role, and excited to have you on board, and thank you for your efforts. And last but not least, I have to acknowledge Mimi. Mimi on our team is first and foremost my daughter. So I'm super proud of you. But she started as the editor, as the podcast editor. It started as just giving her a job because her aspiration was to become a book editor one day. And I said, well, I have a podcast. I need somebody to run it. I need somebody to make sure that it's consistent, that it's happening, and I need to extract myself from anything but getting behind the microphone. And I want you to own that. And maybe that'll look good on your resume so you can get a job to be a editor of a book. And that's how it started. But now she leads our entire customer service, customer delivery team, including continuing to oversee the podcast. I call her our editor-in-chief of the podcast, and honestly, I don't think we could have done it without all of the work that she has put in over the years, because all of the roles I just shared with you, with the exception of the audio and video editing, Mimi has done at some point, and maybe for a long period of time. And as we have grown as a team, we've been able to delegate pieces of it to different people, but ultimately, she has created the organization behind it. It is a machine. For those of you who don't realize what it takes to make this podcast, there is, and we kind of said it through the acknowledgments of the people, but there is the booking of the talent and coordinating with them to make sure that they're prepared and show up, and that we have their bio and their headshot and their website and where they want to send people. Make sure that we're connected with each other on social so that when we release it, we can tag them, they can tag us, and vice and so on. And that's just the prep. Then we have the recording itself, which we do a batch recordings. We do one podcast recording day a month, and I stand here and I have interviews back to back to back, and usually we have 6 scheduled on the first Tuesday of every month. And just coordinating those time slots and making sure it works for people, and reminding them to show up, and having them just come and be there and be present, and sometimes maybe even kicking off the room for me because another one went over or I'm running late. All of that coordination has to happen. So then we record. I'm the monkey behind the mirror here, right? Like I get on, I do my thing, and we record the episode. But now we need to prepare it for you. And there it goes into a whole process of editing, transcribing, pulling out the best pieces of content to make short reels and shorts with, to take out quotes and make graphic quotes with, and then sending all of this stuff that we've created to the guests so that they can promote it, queuing it up for promotion on our social channels and through our email, and ultimately hoping that we're going to get some people to listen and to leave some reviews, which, by the way, if you've been a listener of the show and you want to give us some love, you want to acknowledge our people, you can go to the podcast app on your iPhone, if Apple Podcasts is the best place, but you can go to any podcast player. You can go to YouTube and leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe there. But the best thing is to leave reviews in the Apple Podcasts directory, because people look at that and they make a decision about whether to listen, whether to tune into the show. So that's a way of showing your love back to us, and we appreciate it very much when you leave really kind words, because we celebrate that internally, and we really appreciate that. So that gives you some insight to the behind the scenes, but let me also tell you a little bit about the journey along the way. When I started the podcast, it was just me, Tina, and I. Right? I don't believe Mimi was here when it started. I have to double check and ask her. I think she came in after. And I was manually reaching out and booking guests for myself to interview. And in that process, I booked some conversations with people. Like, I created relationships with people that then morphed into something more. And it's been a very, very interesting journey as a podcast host to put this out there, and develop those relationships. And that's really how the Law Firm Growth Summit came about. But I actually want to focus on a different part of it, which is the part where you might be considering doing a podcast yourself. And a podcast is amazing, because if you're a listener of this podcast, do you feel like you know me? Do you feel like you have a relationship with me? Imagine if somebody is considering working with you and they've been a listener of your podcast. How much more likely are they to have you represent them in whatever their legal matter is than using somebody else because they've been listening to your show? So I love podcasts as a medium because it creates these relationships. The problem is it's one-sided. It's a one-sided relationship. And my experience has been, in the beginning, it's a very lonely journey, because there's no way to know that there's anybody listening on the other side. Now, yes, it's hosted by so the audio files you listen to are hosted by a podcast hosting server, and they tell you how many times your file has been downloaded. So you hope that you can get from that some sort of measurement of how many listeners you have. But it's not accurate. It's not really indicative of somebody listening, because somebody can download, they can subscribe to your show, and then it automatically downloads 5 episodes deep, and you don't know if they ever hit play, right? So I could be sitting here behind the microphone sharing my stuff, and my team could be putting in all their efforts, and there could be nobody listening on the other side. And I will tell you this. It took 3 years of doing this consistently before I had the first person that I had a conversation with, and they said, I'm a listener of your podcast, and I love the show. That's how long it took for me to be consistent with putting it out there before I got feedback from the world saying, hey, your show exists, and there's somebody listening. So, if you're considering doing this, you have to go into it with the understanding that this is not a short-term play. This is not something you're going to do for 3 or 6 months and hope it's going to work. It's kind of like doing SEO for your website. the work you do today is going to bear fruit a year later, 2 years later. It doesn't have to take 3 years. I really stink at call to actions and telling people what to do and how to go to somewhere where they can work with us. So they got great content, but they're like, what next? And I haven't given them a next step. Speaking of which, if you haven't been listening to our recent episodes, we've opened up our calendar. We provide free strategy sessions to law firm owners to help you to unlock the next stage of growth in your business. So if you want to take advantage of that and book a strategy session with us, go to profitwithlaw.com/strategy session, profitwithlaw.com/strategy session, and you can have a call with us where we will help you to get absolute clarity about what you're trying to create and how to get there, how to get past all the obstacles and overcome them. A truly impactful call. And of course, if at the end you're interested in learning more about working with us, we'll give you that opportunity. But it absolutely is a great experience for anybody who wants to go through it. So I wanted to share more about the stuff I've learned along the way. But I also don't want to, I know there's a lot of, we have a special gift for you here. We invited our past guests to send a message, whether it's a message to you or a message to me and my team. Send a message to us, and we're going to play all of those for you. So that's really what I want you to hear in the rest of the episode. But I'm going to share this. If I look at all of the firms that I've worked with, all the owners I've worked with, all the challenges we've been through and everything that we've done, and I boil down, like, what is the secret to not just success, right? But rapid success. How do you shortcut the process? How do you eliminate a lot of wasted years and wasted time, right? And really get that. I got into this book, 10X is Easier Than 2X by Benjamin Hardy, along with Dan Sullivan. Really amazing book. We sent it out in our swag boxes from the Law Firm Growth Summit, so anybody who purchased the VIP got it from us. But if you didn't get that, go on Amazon and buy it. Buy it on Audible. Listen to it. However you like to consume books. Amazing book, an amazing concept, and it's really, really true. If you want to 10x your results, if you want to accelerate your growth, if you want to just cut out 10 years, where if you were doing incremental growth, it might take you 10 years to 10x, right? And you want to do it in one, it's entirely possible. It really is. And it all starts here. It all starts in between your ears, right? It all starts in your brain. It's all about mindset. And I don't want to say that tongue in cheek, and I don't want to say that in a way that like is woo woo or, at the end of the day, you get a choice every single day to wake up and decide who you're going to be. And you know who 10X is a business? It's not an attorney. It's not even a business owner. It's an investor, right? If you want to Elon Musk your business, and Elon Musk is a very is a character that some people like, some people hate, right? So like maybe a bad example, but if you look at the wealthiest people, they don't do micro steps, right? They make big bets. They make bold bets. They do big things, right? Everyone thought that Elon Musk was nuts when he fronted basically, half of his wealth to buy Twitter, right? And maybe the jury's still out on that one, right? Like, we don't know what the financial results are from him buying that business, right? But those are the types of things that an investor does. An investor looks at opportunity and decides whether to do it or not. They front the capital, right? The investor doesn't get involved in the day-to-day running of operations. And here's another reason why Elon Musk was a bad example for me to use, right? Because he probably did get involved in the day-to-day operations when he jumped into Twitter. We certainly did when he jumped into the axing of a bunch of federal jobs at the beginning of the current tenure of President Trump. But the point is that when you wake up and you wear the investor hat, you approach things differently. You approach decisions differently. And those decisions, a lot of them are going to be the things that get you there. But at the end of the day, if you start thinking as an investor, that is the thing, that is the one key that is going to accelerate your growth, right? Even a business owner, a business owner is in the trees, right? You got to look at the forest, not the trees, right? A business owner is in the trees. A business owner sees what's in front of them. They're navigating that and they're responding to it. They've already extracted themselves from being the practitioner, right? So maybe they already have an attorney on staff or multiple attorneys on staff, but they're still involved in the weeds. And it's very, very difficult to come out and see the bigger picture, right? I have a client who wants to be the biggest estate planning attorney in her geographic area, right? So that's her aspiration, right? She wants to be known as the largest elder law firm in this area. And when we look at that, we can take a bird's eye view. We can go up top and say, okay, what does that look like? How much revenue does that mean you have to have? How many attorneys does that mean you have to have? Like, how do we measure this? And for her, the number is right now 10 million, right? So 10 million in revenue. And I just had a conversation with her the other day and I said, well, we can go from 4 million to 10 million in 12 months if that's what you want. Right? And if you look at it, I mean, the concept of this book, 10x is easier than 2x, is that when you aim for something bold and big, when you aim for something that's a 10x type of situation, what you're doing is you're eliminating a lot of the possible options in front of you. What ends up happening is that when you're trying to aim for a really, really big leap, there's only one or two ways to get there. There aren't 100 ways to get there. When you look for incremental growth, when you try to go up 10%, yeah, there's 100 ways to get there. And that's confusing. And it also makes you think that you can start going in one direction and then change direction and go a different way. And what ends up happening is you go 17 different ways and you get nowhere and you get no growth, or you get that incremental growth, but that's it. If you want to take a big leap, there's only going to be a couple of options to get there, and you get to choose which one, and you just go down that path. You can grow through acquisition. It's something we don't talk about on this podcast a lot. We don't talk about it enough, but you absolutely can grow through acquisition. You can look around you, and you can buy 10 $1 million firms, and you have a $10 million firm. And you can do that in 12 months. So if we look and say, okay, how do I get to 10 million in 12 months? And this is like a wild concept. Somebody who's operating at 250,000 is going to have a hard time wrapping their head around it. But if you're doing 2 million, the jump to 10 million is not crazy. So one way to get there in 12 months is to just buy a bunch of firms, right? Another way to get there is to take what you've created in your firm and just duplicate it in 5 different geographic locations. So you already have a marketing strategy that's working. You already have a structure around your employees. You already have systems and processes that's making them profitable. So you take what you have and you just create 5 of them, right? So that's another way that you can get there. Or you can do it in the same geography and just 5x what you have, which can be a little bit more challenging because your marketing strategy might not have elasticity. It might not be able to fill all those buckets. But you certainly can, instead of hiring one attorney, hire 4 of them, right? Or instead of hiring one attorney, hire 10 of them, and invest the money, the capital in the marketing at the level necessary to fill 10 attorneys' plates instead of 2. Right? So those are the boots on the ground decisions that have to be made. But at the top level, the investor thinks about what capital will be required to execute on this strategy. let me figure out how to put that capital in place. And if I don't have it, there's ways to get it. There's ways to get capital. And then let's create a plan of how this is going to happen. And then let's get boots on the ground and make it happen, which it's still not the investor doing it, right? We're going to find the right people. We're going to put them in place. We're going to have them execute for us. So if you can start exercising, putting the investor hat on, if you can start exercising thinking like an investor, that is what is going to accelerate your growth and allow you to skip stages in the growth process. There is no rule that says you have to be a solo for 5 years, but guess what? Most solos are stuck as a solo for 5 years before they hire their first attorney. You can hire an attorney when you open the doors of your law firm. The only thing holding you back from doing that is knowing that you have a runway of $15,000 a month to pay their salary. But if you hire an attorney on day one and you focus on just the marketing and sales part of the business, guess what's going to happen? By the end of the year, you're going to be a $750,000 to $1 million firm, not a $250,000 firm, which is where solos stay stuck for 5 years. And we can look at every single level of growth and we can say there's a baby step approach to the next level, or we can take one big leap. We can take the stairs or we can take the elevator. Which one would you like? The elevator is the investor way. The stairs are the business owner way. And staying on the flat escalator that just takes you through the airport and doesn't really get you anywhere, that's the attorney way. So you get to choose. But that's my one nugget for episode number 500, is that after all this time and all these conversations with all these experts and everything that we've done and the hundreds of attorneys and law firm owners that I've worked with, my one piece of advice to you is start trying on the investor hat. Start thinking like an investor. Say, if I was somebody who was simply putting capital up to make a decision, what would I be doing right now? What would I be thinking was the limit or the level of growth that came next? Solve the money problem later. Make believe you've got it. If you've sat there and said, well, if I had all the money in the world, I would do X, Y, Z, then why aren't you doing that? Why don't you figure out how much you actually do need to make that happen? And why don't you find a way to have that capital in place and execute on it so that it's not the thing you would have done, but it's the thing you actually did do? All right, now we're going to listen to some of our past guests who have some messages to share with everybody. Really appreciate our listeners. Most importantly, I appreciate our listeners for tuning in, for subscribing, for being here. That attorney that I told you wants to be the biggest elder law firm in her geographic region. When we had our first conversation of me working with her in a fractional CFO capacity, she shared with me that she's been a listener of the podcast for many years, and that a lot of her growth she attributes to advice that she received from the various people that we've had on the show over time. And I cannot express how much that meant to me for her to share, but I also know that everything we have here is gold. And there's a difference between her and somebody else who might have been listening to the show for the same amount of time, and instead of building a multi-million-dollar practice, is still sitting there trying to figure out why they're stuck at $250,000, $300,000, or even less. And the difference between those two is execution, taking action. So when you listen to a podcast episode, and I started saying this at the end, like, take one thing from this episode and execute on it. Take one thing from this episode and execute on it. If you do that 52 times a year, you have to have grown substantially. There's no way you wouldn't. There's so much amazing insight here. There's so much that you can do. And if you just do one of those every single week, you're going to have massive results. So stay tuned into the podcast. Make this a religious thing for you. Every single week, you're going to listen. You're going to consume the episode. We really try to bring you the best of the best. We really try to bring you information that is highly, highly valuable for you. We don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your time. I want you to stay tuned. I want you to get growth. I want you to experience the acceleration. And then if you want to work with us to help you grow, if you want to work with us to help you save a ton in taxes, you know how to find us. You know where to go. ProfitWithLaw.com. I'm Moshe Amsel, your host, and I'm excited to take this journey on you for the next 500 episodes and celebrate episode 1000. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to hear from a bunch of our past guests, and I hope you enjoyed their messages, and I will see you next week for episode 501. Take care.
No way! Profit with Law is celebrating 500 episodes? What? Congratulations! That is so exciting. All right, everybody, just remember, if you don't have a high caliber executive assistant, likely you are doing work that is not the highest and best use of you, and you want to change that.
We just heard from Gina Kottner. Gina Kottner is the CEO of Athena Executive Services, a firm that pairs virtual executive assistants around the United States with swamped and successful entrepreneurs and executives. Her team of high-caliber executive assistants work part-time from home, taking many tasks and projects off the plate of successful people, leaving them free to spend their time where they are needed most. Gina has worked remotely for over 15 years on national and international teams of all industries, including architecture and design. More recently, she's focused on the work-life balance, wellness, and personal satisfaction of busy professionals. She's known for developing leaders and having them rise up around her. You can find out more about them at athenaexecutiveservices.com. Her episode that she was a guest on is episode 435, Beyond Billable Hours, Leveraging Executive Assistants for Law Firm Growth with Gina Kottner. You can get that episode at profitwithlaw.com/435.
Hey, Moshe, it's Jan if you're on audio, but congratulations on the 500th episode. I was just looking back at the old calendar. It seems on some levels just yesterday, in some levels another lifetime, that you and I were grabbing lunch down at, I think it was Shanghai Mong in Midtown Manhattan. I think you're talking about starting the podcast, and here we are at episode 500. That's interesting. Like from the beginning, I knew you had something that the industry needed, but it's been incredible seeing that potential get converted into reality as you've got your message across, not only with the podcast, but with stuff like the summit, and also seeing the impact of Profit with Law, the business grow, and the business of your law firm clients grow at the same time. And then even thinking about how those clients, and those are only the ones that I know about, I'm sure there's many more that listen to this podcast and implement some of these things, are themselves making an impact on their clients for whatever practice of law they're doing. And then those people are having better lives and impacting the lives around. So it's crazy, like the butterfly effect when you think about it. But it all starts with your ideas, your concepts, Moshe. And for anybody out there that's listening, it's like, that's what happens when you have something you believe in and you work at it consistently. And there's very few people, I'm sure, that actually ever make it to 500th episode of any podcast. I think most of them are probably missing the boat somewhere between episode 1 and 20. Incredible achievement. But it's been a hell of a journey to watch. And from the parts where I can be part of it from time to time, great to be on the bus for a time. But anyway, it's been great seeing you do all this stuff, Moshe. Here's to another milestone of many to come, I'm sure. And congratulations again.
You just heard from Jan Roos. Jan Roos is somebody who is near and dear to my heart. And let me tell you just real quickly why. So when I first decided to go all in on the legal industry back in, it was mid 2018. And I went on Amazon and I basically bought every single book that was written for the legal industry that had anything related to do with doing with business and marketing, to really start to try to understand and learn the marketplace that I was diving into. And what I did was I also reached out to every single one of those authors to have a conversation with them, to understand their experience, to understand the marketplace a little bit better. And I reached out to them via email, phone, LinkedIn, and so on. There's one author who replied back to me. There's one author who gave me the time of day, and that is it. Only one author out of all those authors that existed back in 2018, and that is none other than Jan Roos. We have collaborated in many different ways, met up in person a couple of times, and really a great guy, and excited to highlight him here. He also is a three-peater. So he's been on the podcast 3 times, and we will share those with you. But let me quickly tell you about him. Jan Roos is an award-winning entrepreneur, author, and speaker. Within a year of starting as a freelance media buyer, he was working with some of the largest personal injury law firms in the country. Since then, his company, Case Fuel, has worked with hundreds of law firms across all the major practice areas and managed over $10 million in ad spend across all of the major ad networks. The practice has expanded to include conversion rate optimization, intake, and leadership training to help law firms get the highest return on their investment and scale their firms with confidence. You can find out more at their website, casefuel.com. He was a guest on episode 242, Get Your Clients from Contact to Consultation with Jan Roos. You can find that episode at profitwithlaw.com/242. He also was a guest on episode 427, How to Double Your Case Files Without Spending Another Cent on Marketing with Jan Roos. And you can get to that episode at profitwithlaw.com/427. Finally, on episode 438, How to Get the Leads That Your Competition Doesn't Know Exists with Jan Roos. And you can get to that episode at profitwithlaw.com/438. Thank you, Jan.
Hey, it's Stacey Brown Randall from the Roadmap to Referrals podcast. I just want to send a huge congratulations for hitting 500 episodes. I know as I am inking towards 400 episodes with my podcast that this is a huge accomplishment. And so to all the listeners who show up every week to listen to the Profit with Law podcast, I just want to make sure you always know that when we produce podcast episodes, we do it for you. You make it possible. And to be honest, worth it for us to keep showing up when we hit, like in this case, 500 episodes. So congratulations to the team at Profit with Law. Way to go. Keep it up. Here's to your next 500 episodes, because I know your listeners are there listening.
We just heard from Stacey Brown Randall, a 2-time guest here on the Profit with Law podcast, longtime friend in the industry. Stacey Brown Randall is the multiple award-winning author of Generating Business Referrals Without Asking, host of the Roadmap to Referrals podcast, and national speaker. Stacey teaches attorneys and other business owners how to generate referrals naturally without manipulating, incentivizing, or even asking. She's been featured in national publications like Entrepreneur Magazine, Investor Business Daily, Forbes, and more. She received her master's in organizational communication and is married with 3 kids. Her website is www.staceybrownrandall.com, and the episodes that she was on, the first is episode 25, Generating Referrals Without Asking with Stacey Brown Randall. You can get to that episode at profitwithlaw.com/025. And episode 443, Transforming Your Law Firm's Referral Strategy with Stacey Brown Randall. And you can get to it at profitwithlaw.com/443.
Hey, Moshe. Matt Darner with Callbox here. Congratulations on 500 episodes, my friend. I had a blast doing our episode and that workshop we did together. You guys are crushing it and providing amazing content for attorneys out there, so keep doing what you do best, and on to the next 500, my friend.
We just heard from Matt Darner. Matt Darner is a co-founder of Callbox, which is a service that takes over the hassle of chasing the past due invoices for law firms. Matt has seen how badly law firms struggle to get paid for their work, and his passion is helping them put their accounts receivable operations on autopilot so they can focus on doing what they do best without sacrificing the financial health of their firm in the process. Their website, callbox.co, and it's COLL like collections, COLLBOX.co. He was a guest on episode 453, Boosting Law Firm Profitability Through Effective AR Management in Law Firms with Matt Darner. You can get to that episode at profitwithlaw.com/453.
Hi, Moshe.
greetings from Australia. Sending congratulations, Moshe, on your 500th podcast episode. It is so exciting to have been part of your journey. I was your podcast guest on the 30th of May 2024. Moshe, you fill such an important space of the law firm journey, teaching lawyers the business skills that they forget to teach at law school on how lawyers can become more profitable. Congratulations on a great journey, and I look forward to seeing many more. Have a great day.
We just heard from Karen McDonald. Karen McDonald, the founder of Wise Owl Legal Software and Cascade Accounting. Karen is an expert on how law firms should be embracing tech solutions to get back their time, which we know for lawyers is very valuable. Her website, www.wiseowllegal.com.au. She was a guest on the Profit with Law podcast on episode 433, Maximizing Law Firm Efficiency, Adopting Technology for Profitable Practices with Karen McDonald. You can get to that episode by going to profitwithlaw.com/433.
So I wanted to wish Moshe and the entire team a happy 500 episode. And I'm just so excited about it because honestly, Moshe, you and your team are all about educating and helping law firms rise up. And proof in the pudding, you're not only out there just doing one by one, but you're offering different ways that they can learn and DIY or be consulted. There's so much power in knowing your numbers and seeing patterns and seeing opportunities before, or basically missteps before they happen. And so I obviously believe so much in what you teach and what you do. And again, just wanted to wish you and your team a happy 500. Thanks a lot for letting me be a part of it.
We just heard from Jennifer Goldman. Jennifer and her team have spent over 30 years transforming more than 650 service businesses and training thousands on scaling and supporting growth. Her operations change work leverages visualization to enhance people, productivity, profits, and presence. Clients of her virtual COO services have seen a 25 to 50% increase in capacity, a 15 to 25% rise in profits, and gain the ability to be proactive rather than reactive. You can find out more about her at myvirtualcoo.com. She was a guest on episode 474 of the Profit with Law podcast. The title of the episode, The Role of a Virtual COO in Boosting Your Law Firm's Profits with Jennifer Goldman. You can listen to that episode at profitwithlaw.com/474.
Hey Moshe, congratulations on your 500th episode. You know, I still remember the time when I was a guest and you made me feel very comfortable. I loved your interview style and I wanted to congratulate you on this milestone and wish you many more to come.
We just heard from Joe Bravo. Joe is what people in Get Staffed Up call offshore talent. He represents part of the top 1% that they work so hard to find in place. Joe's an outgoing person, athletic, but not looking to become an athlete. Happy to connect and easy to talk to. Love having conversations with him. Their website, getstaffedup.com. Getstaffedup.com. Joe Bravo has been a guest here on the Profit with Law podcast on episode 317, How to Create Work-Life Balance Through Time Management and Delegation with Joe Bravo. Listen to that episode at profitwithlaw.com/317, profitwithlaw.com/317.
Moshe, congrats on the 500th episode, buddy. That is quite an achievement. We've done something like 50, and I'm already exhausted, so I honestly don't know how you've done it. Some advice for your viewers. It's pretty much what you preach. Don't skimp on investing in your firm. It's important. Your competitors are doing it. You need to do it. You need to keep growing. Grow or die. I think that's a John Morgan quote, or he took it from somebody else. Anyways, that and contact Meanpug, of course. But yeah, mostly that.
We just heard from Bobby Steinbeck. Bobby's a founding partner at Meanpug Digital, where he leads development and marketing efforts. Bobby is maniacal about two core tenets of the Meanpug philosophy. Integration across the full operational stack is crucial to marketing success, and there's no room for a That isn't our job mentality in a successful marketing team. With 10 plus years leading teams at startups and large law firms alike, he has a track record of successfully taking products and brands to market through the combination of intelligently blended software X marketing. Their website, meanpug.com. He was a guest on our podcast on episode number 455, titled Evolving Your Law Firm's Marketing Approach with Bobby Steinbach. Episode 455 can be found at profitwithlaw.com/455.
Congratulations, Moshe, on your 500th episode. You've got listeners across the map that are gaining so much because of your wisdom and your guests. And I appreciate having been a guest on your podcast in the past. My one nugget of wisdom would be, as people build and scale their businesses, that we want to do it with the focus of selling in the future. Don't just scale to scale, scale to sell. Victoria Collier with Quid Pro Quo.
We just heard from Victoria Collier. Victoria is an attorney who successfully built a 7-figure estate planning and elder law firm right out of law school, and then 18 years later sold it. She is a certified exit planning advisor, certified in business valuations, co-owner of an 8-figure business helping veterans, and founder of Quid Pro Quo LLC. All of this while being the sole financial provider for her family of 4 and operating a farm. That is a lot. QuidProQuoLaw.com is her website. And of course, we'll link all these websites up in our show notes, so you don't need to try to write this down. She was on episode 370, How to Determine Your Firm's Value and Sell at a Fair Price with Victoria Collier. You can find that episode at profitwithlaw.com/370, profitwithlaw.com/370.